He's going into what do you call it, geriatric doctor? What's the right word?
Well, I don't know. What's he haven't looked at?
It's geriatric, memory.
Geriatric.
Yeah. So, and he complains that his memory is weak. He says, doctor, I forget everything. He said, I don't remember where I was yesterday, and what did I do an hour ago, and tomorrow I'm not going to remember that I visited you. What do I have to do? The doctor said, what you have to do is pay me now. So reading this week's reading the book of Numbers, and the book of Numbers is a very interesting book. It talks about Jewish people spending 40 years in the desert, and every time there's complaints, there's this, there's that, there's all type of things that are going on with them. And there was three major scenes we're reading about these big portions. There was the scene of them complaining about wanting meat. They don't have meat in the desert to eat. This week in the Pash, we're reading about them, the spies going to Israel and coming back and giving a bad report saying that they can't go to Israel. And after that, there is the scene next week, is the scene of Korach and all of his assembly fighting, arguing about Moshe's leadership. So, as a result of this, Hashem tell them, you're going to be ending up spending 40 years in the desert. I wanted to bring you to Israel right away, but every person who's over the age of 20 will die before they reach 60. So 4 years in the desert, and then your children are going to get to Israel. You're not going to get to Israel. So while they were traveling in the desert, we're talking about millions of people that were traveling in the desert. 600,000 males over the age of 20. And we're talking about millions of people, the wives with the children, millions of people. They were carrying with them the tabernacle. Tabernacle was not a simple infrastructure. It was a very complex, complicated structure to put together with the tapestries that they had on the side, on the bottom, and at the altar, at the ark, they had a bunch of wagons carrying that, the woods. And how did they know the way in the desert? How did they know where to go? So they had maps back then. So we find out, the Torah tell us that they had the GPS. You thought GPS was invented today. GPS was invented, a couple thousand years ago. What was the GPS? The GPS was the heavenly cloud that guide them where to go, when to stop, when to go. And the heavenly cloud, when it stopped, they realized they had to stop. That's what God wanted to stop. They had to unpack, unload everything from the wagons, put a tabernacle together, and basically spend the time there. You would think that it would have taken a very long time for them to stay if they do all of this. Like, after all, if you're traveling with your family by car and you have to stop in a hotel overnight, you are not going to tell them, all right, take away all the suitcases into the hotel, unpack everything, put it into the drawers just for one night of sleeping. But we find out, very strange, we find out in the desert that they had sometimes they would spend one night in a place, not more than one night. And for that one night, they had to unpack everything and settle like they were going to be there for a year. And the question becomes, what's the point in that? Why would God bother them, to do all of this in just for one night. You have to go in, and the passage says there was time when the cloud was only there for a day or night. There was time the cloud was only there for one night. There was time the cloud was there for for years. So why? What's the point of them unpacking everything and and doing just all of this for one night? Seems like it's has no purpose. God doesn't just want to bother them for no reason. There must be a reason for that, and there must be a reason why the Torah tells us about it. So there's something the Torah wants to teach us for that, and the Torah repeats this a few times. Based on God, they're going to go. Based on God, they're going to go 3 times. It's all based on God. It's all directed by God. What is the Torah tells us? The Rabbi once told students that they were running away from, and they were escaping from one place. What was it, Russia? And they stopped in France for a while, and they were there in the yeshiva, and the directors of the yeshiva asked them to, to study with them, and to stay and keep all the times, and to stick to all the times we have to get up. And they didn't feel up. They said, we're only there for a temporary period of time. You're not going to be like, it's like my son, when we were in Miami last summer, spent a couple of months there. We put him into school before the school ended. He was telling the teacher, I'm like, I'm a guest here. Like, I don't need to learn. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do what everybody's doing. Like, I'm just a guy, I'm just came here for a couple of weeks, before the school ends. So the Torah tells us, no. The Torah tells us that our direction in life, whatever we go, every destiny we're going to, God directs us there. It didn't just happen that I drove and I stopped in this particular hotel for the night. Just because it happened that I got tired in that period, then I decided to stop here for the night. The reason why I stopped here for the night is because God wanted me to stop here for the night. So God was telling this, the Rebbe was telling these students, you're there right now. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about the past. Think about the present. Be in the present. Don't steal your time away from you by not focusing about the present. Celebrate the present. The Rebbe's wife once said, you ask, what is the most important day of the year? So some people said Yom Kippur. Others said their birthday. Others said this, that. So everybody says, she said, no. She said, the most important day of the year is today, is now. The most important time is now. So the message that I was telling them now, focus on the now. Don't focus on the past. Don't think about the future. Don't think about what happened, what's going to happen. Think about now. Typically, what happens in life, people in college, they think about, the job they need to get after they leave college. That they're going to, so instead of focusing and thinking about college, you think, okay, I need to do this because in the future I need to make a job, I need to do this, I need to do that. So they're not thinking so much about the now. When you're 30 years old, you think about, my job is not good enough. I need a better job so I can need more money to buy this or build that or do whatever. And then when you're 50, you're thinking about the past, and you regret the fact that you didn't, spend the time the way you want it, and you were thinking about the future. You're thinking about this. You're thinking about that. So, typically we get up in the morning. We're thinking about the afternoon. In the afternoon, we're thinking about the night. What's going to happen when we get home? And it's like instead of living the past, it becomes very difficult to basically live the present. It's all, a lot of times, instead of being present at the moment, we are worried about something that happened before, or we think about something that's going to happen later, either later in the day, or either later in our life, or either, so we're not finding ourselves present so much in the past. One of the biggest problem that give us with that today is the cell phones. So I was speaking to this couple the other day, and the wife was telling me that she has a very hard time with the cell phone. That even she can't even watch a movie with her husband peacefully because of the cell phone. And then she was showing me that on her watch and saying like a smartwatch that this is even like I have no break for that. So the cell phones is something that takes us away from our life. It takes us away from because we are doing something, and then we have we have this message comes in, we have that thing coming in, we have this thing happening, that thing's happening. It's like so many things happening that we have a very hard time being focused in the present and be here at the moment. The Rebbe was once at a Farbrengen gathering for Hasidic Jews. They were visiting him for the high holidays, so they were going back. And before they're going back, the Rebbe made like a goodbye gathering for them. And the Rebbe saw that they were nervous because the Rebbe's talking and talking, and they're thinking about, we have a flight to catch, on the plane. Will I have a comfortable seat on the plane? Will I have there? So the Rebbe told them a story. The Rebbe smiled, and the Rebbe told them a story. The Rebbe said, my father-in-law, during the times in Russia, when Russia were prosecuted Jewish people for being for keeping up to Yiddishkeit and up to to doing what he needs to be doing. He had a date, and he needed to take a train to the capital city of Moscow to speak with some of the high government officials. And it was very risky for them. It was very risky for them because he could have been it could have been dangerous for him that he's fighting for these Jewish causes and that he's dealing with this. And before his trip, he saw like a lot of people came to him for private audience, each one with his own life problem, with his own issues, and he had to advise them. So he had to really get into that and be like very present with them. And it was a very difficult task, very difficult thing to do. And after this private audience finished, he had 15 minutes between that and he needed to take the train. The Rebbe comes to him, and the Rebbe sees him, his son-in-law, the Rebbe sees him so focused, so concentrated about doing the paperwork. And the Rebbe would tell him he was surprised. The Rebbe says, back then he wasn't the Rebbe, his father was the Rebbe. He told him, to such a degree you could be so focused. So his father-in-law told him that there's such a concept, it's called success in time. What is success in time? How do you succeed in time? The way you succeed in time is when you are fully present at what we are doing. When we are fully present at what we do, and he was quoting an example of a great Jewish thinker, the Rashba, Rabbi Shlomo ben Aderet, as a great commentary in the Talmud, that he said he was a great doctor and scientist, and he answered many doctors and scientists about science issues and about medicine issues. He was a great Torah scholar, so he gave three Torah classes a day, and he would answer halachic questions to people all over Europe, the thousands of questions that came to him every day that he had to answer, he had to respond to. And he said, in addition to all of that, he also had a stroll. He took a stroll and took a 2 hours walk every day. He said, how do you have time to do all of this? So how he has time to do all of this? Because he was very present in what he was doing. So what the Rabbi was telling him, that yes, I just came from private audience when people told me about all the trouble, some crazy stuff that I had to say to them, and I had to advise them, and it was very difficult task. Yes, I have this dangerous trip that's coming up that I have to take in 15 minutes. But he was able not to think about all the problems that people just shared with him, and not to worry about the future trip that he has to take now that is very risky, not to be anxious about it, because he was very present to what he was doing right now. Right now, he was fully focused in these 15 minutes that he had to, to work on this, to do this, to fill out these paperworks, and to take care of his paperworks. So, what success in time is not so much multitasking. Success in time, because multitasking, when we multitask, we are everywhere. Our mind is wandering to so many different places, and there's no peace of mind. There's no peace. We're lacking peace, internal peace. Why? Because the mind is traveled to 50 million directions, here and there and here. And at the end of the day, you find yourself tired, you're exhausted, anxious, because our mind is wild. You don't control the mind takes us to so many different directions, so many different places. We have memories from the past. We have worries of the future. We have things about our family. We have things about this. So many things that we have to worry about. There's so many things that we thinking about. There's so many events that we had going on in the past, that bad memories or not, that we can be so distracted. But if we are able to manage to focus about the here and now, and it's possible. It's possible for us to control our mind. But a lot of things in the way that stops us from doing that is when we let the cell phones coming in. We let, like I told this woman, I said to her, listen, I have no what do you call reminders or pop-ups on my phone, nothing. I only have the only reminders is calendar events. That's it. Other than that, I don't get a beep when a message coming in. I don't get any of that. So, and a lot of times when I need to work, I put my phone away, I put my computer away, I put my, because I need to focus, I need to be present. Just having that phone in front of me, you know, bother me from being focused. Just the knowledge that that somebody may call somebody. Like I say, if you want to be fully present with your spouse, the way to be fully present with your spouse is when, or with your child, or with your parent. It's like if you go out and you have the phone on, you tell your child, or your parent, or your spouse, okay, we're gonna go out, just you and I, we're gonna go out for a walk now. And you have this cell phone with you, and that person that you're going with knows that you have the phone calls, and someone may call you, and automatically take you away from them. Automatically make them feel like you're not really with them. You're not present with them, because that your mind is. So sometimes you have no choice. You have to have an emergency. You have to have But typically, if we are able to keep our mind at one thing at a time, we think we could accomplish so many things at once. We could do so many things, and it's just harder. Then we'll be succeed. We'll be able to accomplish so much more. I remember there was one time when I was doing. I was at a task to do, and I was just worried about that I don't have enough time to do the task. And I said to myself, you know what? Right now, I'm not going to be thinking about what I can finish. Whatever I finish. Whatever I don't finish, get to it next time. And I started going through. I was going through a very detailed list, one. And at the end of that time that I had for this task, I found myself finished the entire task. It was so much easier because I was not worried and thinking, oh, I don't have time to finish this. How am I going to? I was just like, I was saying, right now, I'm just here in this task, doing this. Whatever I do, whatever I get to, I get to. Whatever I don't, I don't. Same thing happening with life. We sometimes don't utilize life, and then, God forbid, something happens, and we were told, oh, I remember there was a person who was working for Chabad.org, Rabbi Litvin. Then he got sick and he passed away later. So then in life, someone came into his office and he asked him about something. He said, I'm sorry, don't bother me about this. You could talk about someone else. I have to focus. I have a limited time to live. I need to focus my time on accomplishing and doing only what I could do and only what I know how to do best. So, what do you guys think about this? Any experiences did you want to share with us about this?
Hi. Well, they throw a lot at us, you know. I mean, just to keep up these days. I mean, I understand the concept of having too much going on, of having your phone ping all the time and all that. But I can remember talking to my niece, who I think you met,
Right.
Joel's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and went to DC, and my daughter was there for a while as well, and I learned very quickly from her that if you live in Washington DC and you're under 30 and you are not up to the instant on what is going on in the world, economics, politics, everything, no one will talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You know, it's I don't want to say it's competitive, it's expected. Mm-hmm. It's how people are gauged in terms of their value.
And that may be the business, because, well, first of all, I had a day yesterday exactly like you were talking about. Started thinking about some things in the past. I don't know why. I just woke up like that, and the rest of the day pretty much went like that. I had every single client for some reason decided to call me yesterday, and just running around, sort of random is the word that comes to mind. Just trying to tackle things, and did I get something done? And oh geez, I thought I sent that, but I didn't. And so very much distracted. And I would agree with the judge in that, at least in my business, I have to be on top of all that breaking news and instant response type stuff, because that is literally the services I provide to some people. And it's challenging, and it is destructive. I mean, we have a lot of phrases down at the Capitol, and you'll excuse me, Rabbi, but one of them is, when you have 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, you're pissing all over today.
I'm going to write that one down.
Which I think was the point of your lecture, but in slightly, more coarse tones. But yeah, I agree with you completely. It comes down to, of course, is besides just the will to say, putting the phone down, or I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Other I don't want to say coping mechanism, because then it sounds too much like a therapy session. But other strategies, I'd be interested to hear.
I think one thing that helped me in the past, and I was working with a coach for a long time. I'm still working with a business coach, consultant, or you call it coach consulting. So many years ago, working with this particular coach I was working with, and he
is that the guy?
me.
I'm sorry. Is that the IDF trainer from Atlanta?
Right, correct. Yes,
that's a good guy.
Yes.
I like him.
Yeah. So I worked with him, and I haven't been working with him for a year, but a number of years before I was working with him. He helped me kind of take my day and divide it into the 3 main things I have to do in my day, which is, outreach, teaching Torah, whatever is including in outreach, and being on campus, office work, management, and stuff like that, and fundraising. Because part of the Chabad Rabbi's work is fundraising, which is also outreach, but it's part of what the Rabbi wanted us to do. So since I did that, my life became so much simpler. Before I did that, it was like, okay, the student wants to meet me. When am I meeting with them? And now, tomorrow, yesterday, at the time, this is my windows to go to campus. This is my windows to go to the Capitol. This is my windows to go. And everything I do fall under certain windows. And so I believe when you take your work, and I instructed my assistant, to do the same thing. To, okay, this is when you work on this. This is when you work. So when you first have these general windows, you say, okay, I'm coming in. First part of the day, I'm organizing my day. Okay, first 30 minutes, and I took a course about called Living Chaos Free. And how to organize your day, how to start your day every day. Part of that was, first section of that was to
make your bed.
What is that?
Make your bed.
Thank you, yeah. No, I mean, you're going to the office. Okay, you're going to the office. I start your day. Okay, so the first part of that was going over your calendars, pending stuff, meaning all the stuff that you put in, you have to follow up, or you have to, like, let's say I called Richard and I said, Richard, can you make a donation for the holidays? And Gisha said, Rob, I would love to. Please call me on, closer to the holidays. So I right away go to my calendar and put call Richard. I would go to whatever that week is and said, call Richard for the holidays. Okay. So basically, I would start my day saying, oh, okay, today it tells my calendar says to call Richard. Okay. And the reason why I'm taking this example because Richard is supporting us ongoingly, monthly, and also the holidays. So, but if I don't start my day with looking at my calendar pending, I wouldn't know what this is what I have to do today. Then I would miss Richard, and I'd call him after the holidays. He would tell me, sorry, holidays passed. I was in a giving mood before the holidays. Now it's
Oh, come on,
holidays
that's
passed.
not fair.
I'm just so so the point is like you have to you start there with the calendar with looking at what is my calendar pending and putting into my schedule. Then I look into all my tasks list. Not necessarily a task list, not of a task list, but all my, all the things that I have to do and see what I have to do today from these things. What is important? What is a priority to today? And I'll write this, and I write next to each thing how long it would take, and I'll put on the category. What are you saying, Richard?
I have a similar observation. I didn't want to interrupt you.
So go ahead.
Well, there's a story that's told among pilots about how we developed checklists. And back in the mid-30s, Boeing brought their latest bomber to Washington to show off to the generals in the Army, because back then the Air Force didn't exist. It was the Army Air Corps. And they brought their 4-engine bomber, the most sophisticated piece of equipment in the sky at the time. All the generals are there. They're in the reviewing stands. The airplane comes out on the runway. It roars down the runway. It takes off, gets up about 100 or 200 foot, and then crashes into the ground, burns, and everyone's dead. And when they went back and reconstructed it, they realized that there were so many things that had to be done by the two pilots to make the airplane fly in a particular way and method and manner. But there was no list to follow to do all of those functions.
Wow.
So the airplane just got too complicated, too busy, too much, too disorganized for them to fly effectively. And that's the legend that's what led to the creation of checklists for pilots on every operation that you do when you're flying an aircraft. And that's the checklist that you're talking about that you make every morning, and that I don't do it as much now because my calendar guides me, although we're going to have to adjust. But when I was in practice, every day there was that list of things. And at the end of the day, you take a look, you check them off as you're going along. But at the end of the day, you take a look at what didn't I get done today?
Right.
How do I do that from here? So
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing you're saying.
Yeah, excellent example. That's right, excellent example. So you're right. Like I have a checklist of even what I have to do in the beginning. How do I start my day? Because if I don't have a checklist, how do I start my day? Then what do I do? Yes. So that's it. Listen, let's try to be inspired to adapt ourselves to it, one step at a time. And small successes are big successes. It doesn't have to be major victories, but if you start writing the list, if you just being organized and set yourself, like we just said, a list of what do you want to do. I find it very, very helpful to how long to also write how long these things will take for you to do. So you have an expectation and you prioritize 1, 2, 3, based on what you have to do first and second. I think this goes along with what Richard said about the airplane. All right. Well, have a great week, everyone, and let's hopefully be a little more productive this week. And there always going to be the bad days. Always going to be not bad days. The not good days. You're not an angel. You're not perfect. So there's always going to be those days, like you said, William, that you're gonna be. But try to minimize that to as best we can. And sometimes, if you find yourself having such a day, the best thing to do is just sit down and say, stop for 5 minutes. Let me make a list. What I have to do. What this, and then you think to yourself, also, my client called me, what are the important calls that I have to take?
Right.
And then if a call comes in, this call I'm not taking. This call is for tomorrow.
Well, I made a little progress in the sense that not too long ago, I would have had a day like yesterday, and then I would have been thinking about yesterday today. Whereas these days, I recognize yesterday was not particularly good, but I'm not, upset about it, just moving on and having today.
Moti, Moti,
Good to see you again, Bill.
I just got to the thing. What were you saying, Wheeler?
No, I was just saying that in a previous life, I would have been obsessing today how my day yesterday was bad.
So now you better.
I've been improving, and yesterday was what it was, and I'm not worried about it.
Baruch Hashem, as long as we get better. As long as we get better.
Yep.
Good to see you guys.
Good seeing both of you.
Have a great
Hasta
week.
luego.
Bye.